Good morning, everyone, and welcome to GPA Trading Services live trading class on this Tuesday, March the 4th, 2025. As you know, today is Tuesday, Gary's Market Forecast, or GMF. It's the heads up on what's going down in the markets. But first, we have very specific rules of engagement. Those include the following. Do not trade with money you cannot afford to lose. Always trade with protective stops. Make certain the 4-hour, the 1-hour, the 30, and the 15-minute time frames align prior to trading with the MPA PE5 version 5.0 software. Also adhere to very strict money management rules, which includes never risking more than 2% of your entire account balance on any one given trade. For options friends, never risk more than 5% of your entire account balance on any one given options trade. And finally, all information provided by GPA Trading Services is for your educational purposes. So please give us a moment as we open up the charts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, picking up with the dollar index on the monthly chart. Again, it looks like we're doing what we said. We topped out at 114.72 in 2022. We're in the process of stair-stepping lower, which we believe is going to be about a 78.6% retracement around 80. Those keeping score that started out with a bottom down in 2007 at 70.53. That swing point low is 70.53. 15 years later in 22, we topped out. Remember, as we were talking about this journey, we were saying we were destined to go to 115, 120. And sure enough, 114.72. Now we believe we topped in reverse. So as long as price remains below 114.72, wave one is over. And as long as we remain below 109, we remain bearish. And we should be stair-stepping our way down. It's still a little early to call this a done deal because we haven't really retraced far enough yet. But it looks like it. This looks like a beautiful wave two correction. We're working on wave three down. And once we start taking out the daily magic Fibbo line, we should see more downside. So let's jump over to the charting platform. And we'll start off with the dollar index. And lo and behold, we're testing the magic Fibbo. We actually did get a swing point low from the prior bounce, but we're still holding on. So is this over? I don't think so. Remember I said last week, expect a bounce. We talked about this in the beginning of the year that we were due for a Fibbo retracement to test it. And then when I said when we get down here, expect a bounce. And we were likely going to see what, Ian, when we talked about that? I said we were likely going to come down here. When we get there, we're going to get a bounce. So I even talked about those trades, the euro pound trade, the euro dollar and the pound dollar, that when we start seeing the dollar index reach this area, take your profits because the euro and the pound would pull back a little bit. We expected this bounce. And I said the maximum we'd probably see is maybe a 618 retracement, but I expected, I even drew the arrows on here where we get a lower high and a lower low. Well, lo and behold, we got a lower high and a lower low. Wow. Sometimes, it's amazing how often you can get this right when you've been technical analysis for so many years, watching charts for so many thousands of hours. But this is the beauty. So are we going to hold here and still bounce again? Possibly. But once we start closing below the magic Fibbo and we start declining further, here's the big level to watch, this 103.90 area. Because from the prior swing point low to the current swing point high, we start closing below that. First off, we close below this magic Fibbo, then there's a very good chance. So we need to go a little bit lower and we need to see a candle body, not a wick, but a candle body close below there. Then there's a very high probability we're going to come down and at least test this 104, 103.90 area. And if we don't hold that, then the writing's on the wall that if we start closing below 103.50, say, give it a little wiggle room, then we're likely going to come down this 98, 97, which are our next extensions down here, and that would be new lows. How about that? So, is this over? Probably. This is typical where you just start topping lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and you start breaking down. But this is critical that we close below this level. And once we do, then the door is ajar to go visiting our 103.90, 104 area, which is the 618. And as we always talk about, from this low to that high, we can't hold the 618. So we'll talk about, say, 103.50, give it a little wiggle room. But if we can't hold that and we close below it, then there's a 75+% chance we go and visit 98, and a 70++ we go and visit 97, and that would mean new lows. So when can we call this done? When can we call that on the other chart, that wave two? Let's kind of put it over here. We get that little wave two correction. Can we call that over? Yeah, I think so when we start closing below this level here. So it's a little premature, but I kind of felt like I don't think we got enough oomph to go breaking out till price proves otherwise. And in the interim, again, we start closing below the magic fibbo, then we're going to come down here and test this level. And if we can't hold that, we start breaking below there, fulfilling these targets down here. Obviously, we could call this done. So a little premature, but I already have my two here thinking it's more than likely over. Amen? But once we close below the fibbo, we're going down, seeking out that 104, 103.90. We break below 103.50, 103 and a half. Then I think we can start to call this over, and we're going down. What about that euro? How about that euro? As the dollar is hitting on the magic fibbo, the euro is just shy of it. A little underperforming, unfortunately, but hey, we still made hundreds of pips coming up here. So this is why I said when they start to reach that fibbo line, we look for that bounce. Take your profits. We're looking for a pullback. Well, we did get it. Is this the end and we go breaking out, come back above? So I'd really like to see if the euro is going to go breaking out and we go much higher. The dollar is obviously going to have to break down, needless to say. So we come over here and we use our 2-point tool from the prior high to the current low. We got to start breaking above this 108 and change. I really want to get above this 109.50 area, which is that battle zone we've been talking about. So if this euro can rally up here, love to see it break the fibbo, close above, come back and retest it to bounce. And when we start clearing that 109.50, we can then start talking about that 135, 113.50, 114.80 area. Highest probability. So onward and upward we go. But it's just like the other one. When can we call this bottom pretty much a done deal? I'm calling a bottom, even though it's premature, that I think this is the low, and we're going to start working our way up. You can see that based on our Elliott wave over here, that more than likely this too is done, and we're starting to work our way up toward this big move. Well, what is the big picture? James, the big picture is this A, we're going up in B, which is going to take years, and we're already in this 2+ years, almost 3 years. As we get a few more months, it'll be 3 years since this bottom, and we're likely got several more years before we get up there, but that's the plan. Then we come back down this way for C. That would be my C wave, but who knows? This might not occur until the end of the decade. Maybe it's 2028, 9, 30. We shall see. Get a better feel once we're up here and we start reversing. How long? But it's definitely several more years to get up here. And it's not going to go from here down to there in a matter of a month or two or a year. I think it's going to take several years to come back down. Took several years to come down to this guy. It took several years to complete B. And it's going to take several years to do C. Amen? But is this over? I'm thinking so. We got what we needed. Remember when we had this 1-2-1-2 and we said, well, if this changes and we break 104, where are we going to go? I remember saying that numerous times. Don't go short, make a living out of this if we break 104, because we're expected to come down about 102 and then bounce. So far, so good. Not too shabby. It's been holding. We even retested at a slight higher low. Little price pattern reversal here. Now all we need is to go ahead and break this last little resistance level that we broke below, tested, went lower, tested, went lower, tested. So once we start to clear that 106 hurdle, we got our 108. We were talking about that 109 previous swing point zone. Once we clear that, then it's onward and upwards to our 114, 115, etc., onward and upwards. Amen? But is this 1, 2 going up in 3? I believe so. So back to the charting platform. When can we call this bottom highest probability it's done, stick a fork in it? Up and until we start breaking this 109.30, 109.40, this little swing point. Why this swing point? It's a battle zone, right? Form of resistance, resistance, support, resistance. So there's no question as we grind up here, which probably will look like this. We'll start grinding up here. We come back, retest the magic Fibbo. We start going up toward this little resistance zone. And then eventually when we break that, probably retest it, that sets the tone. So there's a great trade. Set an alert when we get above, say, 109.40, 109.50. Round it off, 109.50. We get a close above 109.50, go long and shoot for 113.50. Another 400 pips, not too shabby. And take profit too, it'd be up here at 114.80. So that'd be another 500 plus pips. Got it? It doesn't matter, James, if it takes a week to get up here, a month to get up here, 6 months to get up here. When we close above 109.50, no reason why not to go long and shoot for 113.50. Second target, 114.80. Got it? All right. Plus, when we finally close above this swing point to set up that trade, that kind of confirms that this is the low in place. That guy right there. I can put a big check, say done. When we what? Start closing above that swing point. Fair enough? And then we got a 400 pip run there, 500 plus there, highest probability. And again, it's not time sensitive. It can happen next week. It can happen next month. It can happen next year. I don't care. When it closes above 109.50, there's my targets, 113.50, 114.80. What about the pound dollar? Pound did a beautiful thing. It reached the magic Fibbo. I warned you we'd probably get a pullback. Is this over? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we still got to, eventually we're going to get another pullback. But from this swing point low to that swing point high, we could drift a little lower, make a 618 retracement to continue up. But if the dollar starts breaking, this is going to keep going. So the same rule is from the prior swing point high to this swing point low. Once we start breaking that 129 area, so we actually say 130.50 right here, this swing point right there, again, just like the euro, it is a major battle zone. So Ian and others, we start closing above this 130.50, then no problem. It's like the euro, we're going to go long. Well, let me pull this down so we can see the targets. But we close, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, we close above that 130.50, not a wick, but a candle body, actually close above there. then by all means, whenever that occurs, go long. Because now we're talking a 600 pip run first target and about almost an 800 pip, 760 to 800 pip run for take profit two. I like those odds. I like them a lot. And all we got to do is what? Close above this swing point. Fair enough? So you can set an alert up here, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. When it happens, you know what to do. Amen? All right. What about our dollar yen? What did I tell you? Going to 147, 145. Those rallies should be sold until we get down here. Could we go lower? You betcha. Absolutely, we could go lower. But that's my next target, 147, then this 146, 145.80. So until we get there, we still got another 100 pips or so to get to the first target, another 200 pips or so to get to the second target. But any big rally, short term, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, etc., should be sold till we get down here. From that low to that high, we broke the 618, we broke the magic Fibbo. That spells we're going down. How about that? Not too shabby. Pound yen setting up for a potential huge trade to the downside. We still got to get below this 187 level. But when we start to take out 187, right in this zone, we start taking that 187 level out, then there's a 75% chance we're going to visit about 1,000 pips lower. Wow, that's kind of rough, isn't it? 1,000 pips, woo! And then second target about another 1,200 pips later. So don't do it until after we get a close below this. But that looks like a good shorting opportunity for us to go down about 1,000 pips. And what this reminds me of is the Nikkei and some of the others I'm going to show you. But look at all this overlapping chopping action. James, we got the big turn down. That was when the market supposed, oh, it's a market crash. I was like, nope, just go and visit the magic Fibbo in those markets. But this is when those carry trades unwound. And this looks like a potential of the, I think we're showing you that, A wave. I showed you with oil and some other thing, but that's an A. All of this overlapping, chopping, kind of wedge formation, if you will. We're getting lower highs and higher lows and this chop grind slop fest. Looks like this is probably the B wave forming up in this area. So what do we need? We need another push down here for that C wave. And look where it is. Right at these targets. So if this is my A, B, all this overlapping, typically when you get all this overlapping, that's more typical of a B wave correction, not a impulsive end of a move, but just a B wave correction. And we're likely going to get a flush down toward that 180 again, and likely going to make a new low. And who's sitting at the new low? Right there at my targets. Not too shabby. So I'd be a little more conservative to say, we're probably going to come test this zone. We've bounced off of it once. We're probably going to come down here and test it. But if we start closing below that 187, right there, that 187 level, then we're 75%. We're going to 177, a good 1,000 pips. And then another 1,200 pips to go down to the second target. And what appears to be an A, B, C correction. Then what are we going to do? We're going to go back long. Right? Well, how's that work with the software? It's all about the software because I don't do anything without the software. I confirm it. So I should have a pound yen in here. And sure enough, we come over here looking at the pound yen. Daily's back in oversold territory. Weekly, still pushing lower. So why I look for more downside. Monthly, still pushing lower. So this is what I'd love to see. This would set up beautifully if this happens. Monthly continues to cycle down over the coming months, right? Maybe take us through the end of the year, that kind of thing. Months, and I'm not saying, well, it's just going to go down every day. No, we get these stair steps up and we get stair steps down, even though sometimes it looks like it's just straight down. There are a lot of swings in these points. So ideally, I'd love to see the monthly get oversold, the weekly get oversold, and the daily get oversold. And we end up down here around that 177, break that 187, head down at 177, 175 level, somewhere in this department. And my monthly's oversold. We get a PII hook. We go along and we look for a monthly, weekly, daily push to go up several hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pips. Amen. And from the prior low to high, that sets up beautifully. Maybe we go a little bit lower, but you can see the 50% 618. I'm looking for a sweet spot retracement as my monthly finishes the cycle. Fair enough? But just the other day, we took the daily when it bounced and we made 1,000 pips on the previous one and several hundred pips on that next one. And we had talked about that and said, yeah, you can do that, but just be sure you take profits. So here on the dailies, when this reversed, that was about 1,000 pips there. This next one was about 500 pips, which we talked about buying that, setting it for the automated system to buy it. Be sure you're in a position of authority because we expected these lower highs, lower lows to continue. And again, once we take out 187, writing's on the wall, this swing point over here, that we're going to go lower. And that's setting up that much bigger trade long term down to 177. So I'll show you what I'm talking about while I'm saying it. So we start closing below. We're going to come down here. But talk about how a perfect setup, you know. We get down here and we have a monthly oversold on the software. We got a weekly oversold. We got a daily oversold. So when we get down here, I'm looking to buy that dip. All right. So up and until then, are we definitely going to go down to here? Looking like it, but we still got to have price prove its intentions by closing below that 187, then short this down here to 177. And don't expect it's going to go from 187 to 177 in a week, a month, probably take several months, if not a year. We shall see. Could go fast if we start getting some market crash, which, Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey, will come to pass. And notice the same formation. Looks just like several charts. And Nikkei. Look at the Nikkei. Remember I said we start breaking down, it's going to pull our markets down. And we're likely going to get a further retracement. And if we can't hold this support zone here, then we're going much lower. Now, maybe we just come into this support zone, we bounce to go up here, then we get the big one. Or if we continue to see this break down and we start plunging way down here, it's going to pull our markets down. But I do think we're going to come visit up here eventually when our markets go to all-time highs and we continue to push, we're going to see it. Fair enough? So what do we have going? Well, I wanted to show you this over here to remind you. I talked about this a few weeks back. Well, we've talked about it numerous times, but a few weeks back, that as we rallied into mid-February, we're going to get a pullback in from mid-February into March. Hint, hint, hint. Mr. Tucson, this is typical right there. This little move right there. And this is seasonality for the NASDAQ. So is it surprising the NASDAQ is pulling back? No. Is it surprising the ES is pulling back? Looks the same. And the Dow, etc. Why do they look the same? Well, that's seasonality for you. And come mid-March, which, next week or so, we're going to get that run. Going into April, maybe end of April to early May. See it? Then we get another little dip, and then we start to run. So when this part happens, I think we're going to get all-time highs again. We're going to go to that 22.6 for the NASDAQ, 22.8, maybe get a little feisty toward 23. But this was expected. Seasonality, this is a 20-year average. And over 20 years, that's a pretty good average, knowing we get a pullback coming into March. So let's go back over here. Let's look at, since we talked NASDAQ, we'll do NASDAQ first. I warned you that, yes, we're still going to go up here. I keep saying it. This is salivate country, right, Emil? Look at where we are at 20,000. We don't hold this little support zone, then we're going to go lower and maybe even go a little bit lower. This is the daily. Well, guess what? The 3-day sitting. A little bit lower down here. So if we don't kind of hold this little support zone here, then the door is ajar for us to go to 19, maybe 18.8 area. And notice the magic Fibbo is sloping upwards. So we typically push lower, and then eventually we're going to, maybe we get another rally back up and a continuation to come down here. But what is the market pricing in right now? I believe I got my fear factor on here. Let me see. Take that out of the way. Calendar. No, Doge. I don't hear it. Is it on this one? Let me check this one. All right, there it is. Fear and greed. Look at it. Ooh. Typically, when we get to these extremes, Ian, James, Emil, Mr. Tucson, when we start to see this push into extreme fear, market's going to give us a bounce. Well, not to say it can't go lower. I'm just telling you, I warned you we needed a correction. But when you start to see extremes, and what's really odd is that VIX is not really expecting you're going to get some big, huge spike with a huge sell-off. So we're getting closer and closer to a bottom reversal. This is what we had talked about for weeks and weeks, that we needed a correction, whether we went up here first to get it or we do it before. And I said, I'd really prefer we do it before, because once we do it, we got a long way to go to get up here. Right, Emil? This is salivate country. Is this the end? Well, maybe we come down here. Maybe. But I have this set for a bounce. Remember? We set the deals. We got Russell. We have S&P, NASDAQ. So we're due for a bounce. Ready to trade, buddy. It is ready to trade. We're oversold. And is this the bottom? We maybe get another rally up, a little 618 retracement. Then we push lower. So I won't say that once we reverse here, this is definitely going breaking out initially. It's possible. But when you start doing these bottoms, what's the most efficient way to do the bottom? Trade the MPA PE5 version software, multiple time frames align, you get the hook and the cross, and you're good to go. But you also should take profits along the way. Amen? So what does that mean? So what if we come down here? Emil, we're not just going to go straight down there if that happens. We're going to get some sort of bounce. We're at extreme fear. And typically when you see the extreme fear gauge that low, way over to the left like we just looked at, we're going to get a bounce. Whether it's a short squeeze, a dead cat bounce, then we get another push. But maybe it just reverses to go up here. Either way, if we come down here and we go a little further to like the 3-day magic Fibbo level, which would be somewhere around that 19, 18, upper 18s, lower 19s, still going to go up here. Could talk thousands of points to get back up there. But I'm ready to take this trade to the upside in the short term, because what would we look for? Well, let me take some of these levels off just so I can show you. But after this move, it's possible we have this little three-wave move, A, B, C. This is the end, and we go ripping up here. Our 22, actually over here, our 22.6, 22.8. I just took the other one off a minute ago just so I could show you. But at least during this bounce, we go from the prior high to the prior low. We're looking at least probably a 21.5 to 21.7 bounce. That's pretty good, isn't it? We're at 20,001. We could go up to 21.5. That's over 1,000 points on that bounce. So I'm looking for, Emil, what if we go a little bit lower? Then we just follow it down, right? We keep going lower and we finally get that reversal and we start bouncing. I'm looking for a little sweet spot retracement, even if it means this. We come down, we get a retracement, and we ultimately flush down here. Well, if we get that bigger degree where we flush down here, that's really get excited for us to go up toward that 22.6, 22.8 up in here zone. Maybe we get feisty to 23. Interesting, isn't it? So why are we betting we're going to get a bounce? Because seasonality says we're going to get a bounce. Software says we're going to get a bounce. Technical picture says, even if you're a contrarian, says we're going to get a bounce, right? Extreme fear. And typically when you get to this extreme fear mode like this, the markets just don't go plummeting straight down. They actually get a bounce out of it. And when you're at extreme greed, you typically get a big pullback. And when you're at extreme fear, you typically get a bounce. Well, I like it. I like seeing extreme fear. I like seeing the software setting up at these extreme levels. Amen. So that's why I'm looking to buy this bounce. And yes, I'll get to a position of authority in case this is the end of that move and we go ripping out and break all-time highs again. I'm in it to win it. And if it's just a simple bounce to a nice little sweet spot retracement before we get one more flush, then I can still make profits along the way and then buy another dip when it gets lower. Amen? So I'm going to come back over here to this platform so I can change my time frames. And let me swing back over here. And we come to our NASDAQ. Daily's pushing lower at extremes. Weekly, still down. So, Emil, this is why I know we're going to get a bounce here. And this is telling me when I buy that PAI hook on the daily, I'm in it, sitting there ready to buy as soon as it triggers. But this is still steep slope angle separation down. So maybe this is setting up that little fear greed bounce. We get a 618 type 50% 618 retracement. Then we get one more flush over the next week or so, and this pushes lower, and we get a weekly oversold, daily oversold, for yet the big bounce to run up toward that all-time highs. Everybody feeling me? So, is this the end? Maybe. We don't have to go any lower, and we could reverse and go up and break out. Amen? And that weekly could do what? Just looking at the software, what can the weekly do? Just go slingshot higher. It's been doing that for a very long time. Slingshot, 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 slingshot. So this could easily slingshot higher. But when do I really salivate? If this thing could go all the way to oversold over the next couple of weeks, so we get into mid-March, and then we come down to this cloud area, Maybe we come and test the magic fibbo area and then we go bouncing. That would be ideal, but don't count on we're definitely going to go. So, A, when I see fear, greed like this, extreme fear, I see software is oversold. That's why on the daily, I'm looking to buy this bounce. And then I get to my position of authority. Amen? So I have it in this platform so I can do this class and show you it's ready to trade, buddy. I'm waiting, salivating. Is this definitely going to be the breakout to all-time highs? Maybe. This might be the end. We don't have to go any lower. But even if it's not just going to go up a point or two and then go way down. It's going to reverse and make a nice little retracement. What am I waiting for? A daily to PII to hook. So we can type that in like we always do. Buy right there. Buy D1 PAI hook from oversold territory. Right there. And with this MPA PE5 version 5.0 software, it's automated. It's not a bot that trades constantly without your input. You do your input. We already did this. This was last week. I've been waiting for this thing to set up. Still sitting there ready to go. So you go into properties, you set your stop loss, take profits. So when it pops on here, it'll put a red line for your stop loss or 3 green lines for your take profits. Set that in there, and then all we want to look for is a trigger long, true. That's what I want. I want one of these triggers to go long. Amen? That's what I'm waiting for. Trigger long, it enters automatically for you. And I don't want anything else. I'm not interested in a trigger short, not a slingshot long or a slingshot short. Any trigger is a good trigger. You set it, you forget it, and just let it do its thing. So I have that on the S&P, I have it on the NASDAQ, and I have the Russell also. So what are we looking for? Emil, we talked about this. Let's go back to the dailies. It's a thing of beauty, right? Actually below this. Could we go lower? Yeah, we could. This is a big support zone. There's prior support, resistance here, support there, right in the thick of this. So this may be where that daily reverses and we get out of Dodge. And we go way up here to that 22.6, 22.8, maybe 23. Or we get a bounce into the magic fibbo, back up. We do a 618 or so, 50%, 618 retracement, and we have a high, low, lower, high, and then we push one more time lower. Look at the 3.2. What if that happened? From this high to this low, we get a retracement to about a 618 area. And where would it push us? 19, 18 area, see it? And where's that lining up? Like a heat-seeking missile on the 3-day at 18 area, 18.3, see it? So this is sloping upwards. So maybe we go visiting the 3-day to get the big bounce. Could be. Any questions? But I certainly feel confident to buy that bounce because it's going to be a good one. We got fear and greed saying doom and gloom. So you're going to get the markets ripping higher, one of these big type of rips. Even if it turns out it's a big rip to get another dip, that's okay. Still make good profits on the way up. And if it is the end of this correction and we do go up here, great. No matter if we do this and make a lower low, then we go up here, or we continue just from here going up there. We're getting to that 22.6, 22.8. Maybe we get a little feisty towards 23. What about ES? S&P, same thing, ditto. I warned you we were coming back toward the magic fibbo, like a heat-seeking missile. Come visit. Are we still going to get up to our 62, 62.50 area? You betcha. Maybe 63? Yeah. Are we still looking at this to go up here and then a bigger correction? Then we go up there to about 66 and then we plummet? I still think that's the plan. Amen? So buy this bounce, take aggressive profits because we could potentially come up here and even go a little bit lower. Remember, I said we're going to come down either to the daily or the 3-day, which is right here. Where's my 3-day? Right there. And it's a little bit lower. So do we get this? Rally up to that 62, 62.50, maybe 63, then come down here, then go bounce to that 65, 66 area, then the big one? Maybe. But the software set up beautifully for this pullback. We had the seasonality telling us very likely we're going to get that pullback coming into mid-March. And here we are. So this is why I'm looking to buy, right, Emil? Because we're getting there. And then what happens? We should get a nice run starting from mid-March through April, maybe May, early May. I like it. And certainly the phenomenal software is setting up that as well, too. So in closing on the NASDAQ Russell, we'll look at the Russell in just a second, but how spot on were these calls? We were likely going to at least come to the daily, and this is the beginning of salivate country because I'm buying this to go long. And then if it turns out it's just this little bigger push to come down further, I really salivate to buy that one if we can get down there. Amen? So daily reverses, I'm in it, and I get to my position of authority. And if it keeps going and runs up to my 62, 62.50, great. I'm going on the record as saying we're definitely going to get there. One way or another, even if we do this lower high, lower low, then we get up there, or we go ripping the breakout now. It's happening, in my humble opinion. Look at the Russell. Woo! IWM, James, look. Kind of had this box on here for a long time. Kind of shocking how often we can get this so accurate over time. Still think we're going to get a big run on this guy. This is beginning of salivate country down here. I like to see this thing even go lower. So what are we doing here? The weekly. This is where the weekly comes in on the, so I'm on the weekly. Get that out of your way, the weekly. In oversold territory, looking for this baby to reverse. Beautiful. Can't ask for anything more. Gorgeous. A gorgeous beauty. So here on the 3-day, we're already breaking below that magic fibbo. Well, we kind of gave you this target. Here's the weekly. Coming right at it. Man, this is why I got that target. We were due. We hadn't visited that weekly magic fibbo in quite some time. Last time we were testing was way over here in September 23, and we bottomed out in October 23. But since then, we broke back above, didn't touch it, didn't touch it, didn't touch it. So we were due for this. And this magic fibbo is included in your software called the MPA from Market Price Anticipator Software, Magic Fibbo Line. It is magical. So I'm salivating to go long here on IWM. Do we go lower? Yeah, maybe. I'm waiting for that weekly to reverse on this one. Give it a little bit more oomph to get a little bounce going. And even if it does just do a simple retracement, it's still talking 20 plus points for us to do from that high to low. We rally from, say, 200 to about 220. That's not too shabby. Is it possible we can go breaking out, making some new highs? I'm not seeing it right now because this has been underperforming. I've showed you this many times. We barely revisited the high back in 2021. We barely finally just went up there and then we failed dramatically when we touched it. Where our counterparts in Q went on to make an all-time high numerous times from that November 21 high. ES, same thing. From that November 21 high, and then we got that pullback, we went on to all-time high numerous times. Even the Dow, same thing. All-time high, we went on to make numerous more. The only one that's underperforming is Mr. Russell here. It barely went back to revisit. That's why when we come back over here, most people trade the IWM. But this is setting up beautifully. Is this the end of that little three-way move? We get another push. Well, I'm looking for a push, even if it's to a lower high. We don't start holding this zone, then the door's ajar to go lower. But I do think we're at least going to get a run back from the prior high to low. Let me stretch this out for you. So from this prior high to this low, let me get that out of the way. Move this, remove, and bring this guy. Let me keep removing. I got so many on here. But this, from that high to this current low, we're going to get a bounce, which is likely to make a move toward that 220, maybe 230 area. So when this bounce gets underway, I like to see the weekly start reversing and we get a daily cycle up. My weekly hooks and crosses, the daily cycle's up, and that would push us toward that 220 to 230 area to test that big resistance zone. Got it? So this is beginning a salivate country as well. We're about to get a major reversal. Hint, hint, hint. Now, it's hard to say, is the reversal going to be today, tomorrow? But when it does, we should get a nice, hearty, multiple, double-digit run on IWM. Because we got a weekly getting oversold, a daily oversold, and we're looking for that bounce and reversal. Amen? So I'm looking to take profits around 220, maybe 215. Second one, 220. Third one, maybe 230. 15, 20, 30. All right? Is it today? Is it tomorrow? We shall see. But that's why I got it set in ready to trade mode, just waiting for this baby to reverse. And it ties in with the reversal of seasonality. I don't have the Russell one up, but it looks identical to this. Get that pullback in the first beginning, the mid of March, and then we get the big run going into end of March, into April, early May. Got a nice big run coming. Right there, my friends. 20-year average. This is what the markets have done with a 20-year average. That's pretty good. And we're looking for the reversal, plus the software is oversold. Looking for the reversal, setting up this perfect time frame. And last but not least, our fear and greed. Would not be surprised to see that bounce coming. Amen? All right. Let's continue. Did exactly what we asked it to do. Boom. Can we go a little bit lower? Maybe. But it's definitely setting up for that bounce. NASDAQ, just to repeat, could we go lower? Maybe. We don't have to. So I'm buying the daily PAI hook on the NASDAQ. I'm buying the daily PAI hook on the ES. Here's my ES. I'm buying that daily PAI hook on that. And on the NASDAQ and the Russell, the weekly's getting there. This is right into the zone we wanted. This was our salivate country. Boom. Any questions on that? We can also look at our S&P. We're just kind of on this one, which is the 50-day, kind of hanging out in the middle. Came down to 20. We're bouncing, likely going to go pushing up here. So, Emil, what happened last time we touched up here? We were going to come down here. Well, looky. Now we're bouncing. So this is I don't trade this. It's my, stretch that out a little bit more. This is my oscillator. But after you touch, you come down, you go up, you come down, you go up, you come down, you go up. So that's what we mean by oscillator. So last thing we touched, remember weeks ago, I said we needed that correction. We were up here, likely need to come down here. And if we could see it come down at 20 or lower, we would start to salivate as the markets are setting up the bounce to go back up. It's about to take place on these charts. So be careful if you're short. I'd start unwinding some of those shorts, because when fear and greed, again, keeps this same scenario, and you get fear and greed at that extreme, look out. We're going to get a bounce. Amen? All right. What about black gold, Texas tea, the Beverly Hillbillies? We're testing this low. We had a uptrending higher lows. We're starting to break that. That sets the tone for 65, 63. When we failed, this scenario here got the big wick up and failed and closed back below in this zone. Now we're below the magic Fibbo. We kept saying we're likely coming down here. And maybe if we don't hold this little support zone, then we got 60. We don't hold 60, we're going to 50. But I'm looking to buy this in the longer term. I showed you this the other day too, with my big A down, little a, working on B, coming down in C to make the A, B, C. So with this last little push, we're going to get the B run up here to come back near this 94 area. So if you remember from this is the big A down. This run up here was the little a. I'll circle it. And all of this overlapping chopping action, this is the little b down that we're running into right now. So we got a little b right there. And then we're going to go up in C, back near that 94-ish area, to do my little c, which then makes the bigger B. And then we come back down and big C, right? A, B, C. And this would be big C over here. And we're probably going to come down to that 60, maybe $50 range. After being up here in the 90s, come down to the 60s, 50 area. So in closing, what does that mean? Are we going to go way down here first? I don't think so. I think we're going to get a big reversal coming. I still want to see a little bit more. So back to the software. We go to Black Gold Texas Tea, the Beverly Hillbillies. And we look at this. Weekly's getting oversold. We want to buy this weekly PAI hook from oversold territory. It's already set, ready to go. Beauty. And this baby should run where? Based on that ABCs, probably back toward that 94 area, which is way over here, but likely going to get a multi double digit run up. And I want to buy that weekly. So, Dan, I'm looking to buy the weekly PAI hook right there. Software also works on NinjaTrader. Still looking for this reversal to come. We're into these low areas. That's fine. We're almost there. I know you look at this. Well, it's already on. I just want to show what it's going to look like. And I already bought some shares. And the lower we go, I'm adding shares. That should come as no surprise. Come back over here, go to MPA. And I said it the other day. This hadn't been updated with last week, but the other day anyway, my targets here in March. Let me refresh right there into the end of February. So coin, this is looking good. Bitcoin's about to go ripping. It's finishing its correction. And this baby's going to go ripping. And I think coin, CONL trade, consider that. Just like we said, Tesla's setting up again with TSLL. So I'm just in this on this paper trading because I already bought shares. But when this weekly starts reversing this week, next week, it's coming. This baby should go shooting to the moon. So where my take profits are way up here, 45, 50, 54, 45, 50, 54, and looking for this thing to go way higher. Just like last time in October, we talked about consider this trade in October of last year that we were going to run, Tesla was going to run to 500. And during that low here in October, we ran just shy of 500. And TSLL during that same period ran from about $8, $9 all the way to 41. I like it. So no reason to believe we won't see that again. Amen. And you can see way back here in October, right there. Tesla's expected to hit 500. Consider the TSLL trade. How about that? Now we said last week or so, it's setting up again. And if we get that dip, the lower it goes, add more. That's what I'm doing. No buy, sell, hold. I can't tell you what to do. That's not my job. But that's what I'm doing. And I'm adding to my position for this thing to go ripping higher. And the what? By mid-year, summer, mid-year, I think we're going to be ripping. So tie that back in over here. Kind of fits the script where we're getting the pullback. And as we get into May, June, and there's some big announcement supposedly coming out where all those big dogs are buying millions and millions and millions of shares of Tesla stock. That means TSLL, if Tesla goes shooting up to that 600 target now, then that TSLL during that summer months, May, June, July, should go soaring higher along with Tesla. That's the plan. But this is definitely time to be nibbling and buying. I got it a little premature, right, Emil? We nibbled a little early, but I warned you, don't be buying your full spectrum right now. Just get a nibble because we did talk about this. Let me go back over to NinjaTrader. We did talk about this, that the weekly was still down, the daily was going to slingshot lower, and there you go. We're getting to extremes. So is this the end around 11? Do we go a little bit lower? I don't care. Lower we go, I'm going to keep adding. But I do believe Tesla is going to run towards 600, and that's going to make this TSLL make a run up here. And in my upper 40s to mid 50s, maybe we go crazy to the 60s. We shall see. But the weekly reversal's coming. But is now a time to nibble? You betcha. 11 bucks? Whew, definitely time to nibble if you hadn't nibbled. And just buy and hold for about 6 months till we get through summer and we get through that June target and Tesla goes ripping up, the markets go ripping up. That's why I'm looking to ties in with the S&P to go bouncing, NASDAQ to go bouncing, Tesla to go bouncing, therefore taking TSLL with it. And what are the targets up here? 600, 650, maybe 7. Maybe we go crazy and get to 8. Any questions? So the scenario is we expect this to go much higher, and the lower this baby goes, I'd consider adding a few more shares. You don't think it's going to play out? Buy one share, cost you 11 bucks. When it's up at 45, 50 bucks, you know, wish you bought a lot more, but you get the point. No buy, sell to hold, but that's what I'm doing. There you have it. Next up, yesterday or last week, we talked about Coinbase and CONL. Come back over here to the chart, and I'll do it on this one here. Is this Bitcoin over? Well, I'm watching this closely. Is it going to be able to hold this level? I mean, from the related swing point low to swing point high, it holds this zone. This is critical that we hold this. We'll see where we close today, but let's see if we hold this zone. If we do, then this could be the beginning of the big rip. Well, a couple of things. We're stuck. We got these engulfing candles in here. We got our big run, then engulfing candle, and now we're kind of, this is still a little bit bearish. We're below the 618 right now. If we close below the 786 and take out the support zone, then I think Bitcoin's going to go lower. 75, 73 area. What did I warn you about Bitcoin? I said we haven't had a 30% decline in a long time, and Bitcoin always has around a 30% decline during the big runs. So guess where we are, Mr. Tucson? From this high to this low, we're almost there. See it? 27.8, almost 30%. So where's 30%? Right in this target zone. See it? Can't make this stuff up. So am I guaranteeing that Bitcoin's going to run down and dip into here? This might be the end. But until we start taking that swing point up here around that 94, we do that, then it's back to 95, 108 area. We take that out, we're going about 108, testing that all-time high. Break that, 116, 113, 116. So I'm not concerned with this. I expected this. So how is this over? Maybe. That might be the end. I warned you we need to come down here at least. That maybe's the end, but maybe we get one more flush. I'm still adding to my position on some of my specialties, like BTBT. All right, I added some more of that. Kind of showing up lower because Bitcoin's pushing. We get a little bit more push. We get to 2 or lower. I'm adding to my position. So when Bitcoin goes ripping, this thing's going to go ripping again. And way back when we talked about this around $2, it went from 2 up to about 5 plus 6, almost $6. That was a triple. Hopefully you took some profits. Now we're back to give you another chance. Another chance. And I still think Bitcoin's going to go ripping. Kind of mixing it up this time. We normally do Bitcoin and that at the end, but it's just, it is what it is. And Mar down here at 13, man, we bought down here at 8, 9, 10. So anything lower, I'll probably keep adding. Looking for, you know, it went from what, 8, 9 up here to 30 plus. That was a triple right there. Hopefully you took some profits. Warned you about the summer pullback into this past year. We got a big run again. Now we got this next correction. This is typical. If you can't handle the heat in the kitchen, then don't trade and don't cook, right? Well, I love it. I thrive on this kind of stuff personally. And I'm looking for this thing to go ripping higher soon. Sooner than later, but no later than later. We're going to get a big run. And this thing could be just a rocket ship taking off. When are these miners going to go ripping? When Bitcoin starts to reach its profit margin of about that 115, 120, 130 area, 130,000, 120, 25,000. So back to Bitcoin, I'll show you what I'm talking about. When we start to get up in this zone, that profit margin is going to send Mara and BTBT and some of those miners, Riot, etc., through the moon, to the moon, Alice, to the moon. And I still think highest probability we go into 150 to 175 area. We start hovering around 170. That's when I'm really looking to take some profits. Amen. But watch what happens to those miners when we get up in this zone. I think that's when they're just going to go ballistic to the upside. Now, admittedly, we start getting Bitcoin to rally up this far, they're going to go up. But once they start hitting this big profit margin up here, and those miners really, the profit starts to go insane, that's when their shares are going to go insane. So don't give up yet. Been kind of, well, like I said, from 8 to 30, that's not too shabby. And now we're back. So yeah, around the 13. So what's Mara going to end up doing? I still think it's got massive upside, but I can't wait to see what Mara and those miners do when Bitcoin starts breaking out from that 120, 125, 130 and moves from that zone here up into its zone where it's headed, that 160, 170 level. That should be some massive move. And you think, well, it's not that big a deal. It's Bitcoin moving about $30,000 or so, but it's where they are in relation to how much profit those miners are making on their mined Bitcoin. That's the difference. Because you go, well, Gary, for us to get there, we got to move about 40,000, right? We're in the 80s. We got to get to 120. We got to move about 40,000 just to get there. Well, I think you're going to see those miners move much faster and more obnoxiously higher than this 40,000 move. That next 30,000 move, they really should go ballistic. That's kind of the plan. All right. Any questions? ETHU, look at this thing way down here. Well, Ethereum's been a big disappointment. It's just not performing. We got our new low. I warned you about this. Based on this overlapping chopping action, we needed a new swing point low, even when we didn't get that one. I was like, I kind of wish it would have. Now we're in the zone. So if this thing is ever going to take off, it needs to start showing some life. Amen? So I do own ETHU. Definitely own. I've been cost averaging since it went on this pullback. And I have some more set, I believe, at $2 maybe. But I have several hundred shares. And the plan is when Bitcoin goes ripping, Ethereum's going to go with it. And if we can finally get Ethereum to break this 4,000, this thing's going to go ballistic. Because once we start breaking the 4,000, that opens the door to all-time highs for Ethereum, which is way up here in the upper 5, 6, 7 range. Amen? So there's risk involved in trading, period. Could this end up being a dud and it doesn't go anywhere? Well, remember what we did with this. We bought low at $4 and it tripled up here to 12. So hopefully you took some money. And this is the house's money on this new venture. So if it turns out and it goes to zero, then I really hadn't lost a whole lot because I took my big profits on that first run. And this is setting up, which looks like a big three-wave correction down here. That this should set the tone for a bottom reversal. Amen? Again, I can't tell you what to do. That's what I'm doing because I own these. I own several hundred shares of these. I'm looking for this thing to bounce. But I'm not worried about it because we already did that and tripled the money. So you take those earnings and use it for the next move. And believe me, I don't see this continuing to go down to zero as Bitcoin makes that big run. I see this as a big reversal coming, but I have been disappointed. Why? Kind of looks like the IWM toward the ES and the other markets. We didn't go breaking all-time highs. We came right to these big battle zones and we're still below all-time high, right? Underperforming, just like IWM, just like silver is to gold. But I think silver is one of the biggest potential trades this year because I think it's going to go ripping higher. We'll go over gold and silver in a minute, but I still have faith in Ethereum coming back and the new strategic reserves that Trump's building for digital currencies. Ethereum's part of it, Solana's in it, Cardano, several of those in there. That certainly is not going to hurt the push. And I think all of that, and they start loading up the boat, buying at these lows is going to help push price too. And Ethereum, Bitcoin, of course. So where are we going with this? And man, I can't promise we don't go lower. It's possible. I warned you about this, that we put your junk bids down here, that we were going to get these dips. And even after this big rip in the chop and overlapping, I kept saying, man, we really need to come down and make a new low. Well, we're finally there. Is this a guarantee it's over? Maybe. But when Bitcoin starts ripping, I think this is going to elevate and start pushing higher again. And I can't imagine Ethereum not at least going to retest 4,000, right? And if it does that, just to retest it and not break out, then that ETHU should make a run back towards $12. Amen? That's kind of the plan. And if we break this and we start opening the door to, the upper fives, sixes, etc., that means we're going to be doubling and tripling in price. You 2x that, and that's 6x. So 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32, 32 to 64. Maybe. So we shall see. All right. Any questions on that? So, in closing, is this the end of Bitcoin's dip, or do we need to go a little bit more? It's possible we could push to this next target. I'm watching this closely because if this does push and we close below this level today, then the door is kind of ajar for us to go a little bit lower. And I'm going to move my 30%. That's why it kind of fits the mold to come down here. And that is so typical of Bitcoin to do a 30% retracement or more while you're in the midst of the bull run. Right? We're in the midst of the post-halving bull run, crypto run. It's typical to get a 30% retracement. It happens all the time. And then some. I showed you over here. This was the crypto winner, 77+%. But even on the prior runs, there was your 30% decline from that high to that low. And then what did Bitcoin do? Ripped higher. Went from down here about 30,000, doubled lickety split to 64 plus thousand in a short moment, more than doubled after the big 30% decline. So, with that in mind, we come back to current price action. Does that guarantee that this current low, which is only about a 27%, not enough? Maybe. That's why I'm watching this low to high. Are we going to break this zone? If we do, then we're likely coming down here to fulfill that 30% retracement. But be extremely careful, because I do think this thing is going to go ripping higher. Amen? I think it's going to go ripping higher. Now that's kind of right where we're thinking down here to the zone. If we close below, likely going to push a little bit lower. Here's my big support zone. Does Bitcoin go back to where we broke out from, around that 68 area? Maybe. If we don't hold this little zone there, then we're going to go to that 68, and I wouldn't be shocked to see that. Dip down here real quick and just boom, get out of Dodge. Start ripping. It's coming. And again, we're not even to the first 12-month period yet. 12 to 18 months post-halving was when Bitcoin makes its run. And believe me, I already said from that swing point low way down here, crypto winter low around 15,000-ish. Bitcoin always does a 10x minimum, that's 150. And then from your high to low, it at least does a 1618 retracement. That's your 175. That's why I'm targeting that 160 to 170 range. Amen? And what happens when we reach the 160, 170? My humble opinion, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get there. Even though we're going lower right now. So, you sure? Yeah. It's done it every time. And even during these crypto runs, you do get those pullbacks. So this is typical. And then when it goes ripping, what am I going to do when we get that 160, 170 level or higher? Sell everything I own in crypto. All my Mars shares, all my Bitto, whatever you got, Riot, BTBT, ETHU, anything I have, I'm unloading. Solana, whatever, unloading it all. Any questions? Unload it. And then we do what? Every 4 years we bottom, every 4 years we top. And I don't mean 4 years to 4 years. It's the crypto winter low to the crypto winter high. The last time Bitcoin topped out was over here in 22 into 21. So 4 years from there, it'd be 25 when we're going to top out. Then we look at our crypto winter low was right here in 22, late 22. So that's why I'm going to look to buy the dips in mid to, well, probably late 2026, early 27. But Emil will tell you when we're in class in another year plus from now, and we're in late 26, I'll kind of tell you, kind of like salivates. It's buying time, just like I did Bitcoin this year. Remember, I kept saying it. How many times did you hear me say that? Till you probably blew in the face. Bitcoin at 20,000 or less is a crime. It's a steal. Anything at 20,000 or less is unheard of. Because it was going where? 100 plus. And then I even said when it's 25 to 30,000 is such a good deal. Man, that's a good deal. And where did it go? 108. Now we're pulling back, but we're not done. So 2026, when we start bottoming over here, and if we go to the target, I'm thinking the typical pullback with Bitcoin, put it in the about 40,000 range. So hopefully in 2026, down here, Bitcoin somewhere around that 40,000 or lower number. That is time to buy for the 2028 halving. Right? So somewhere late 26, early 27, we start buying. well before the next halving. This blue line was this year's halving in April. We bought way down here and months in advance, boom. And then look at that run. It's not finished, as you well know. So in closing, again, it's done it every time. From the low to the end of the bull run has been at least a 10x. That's the 15 turns into 150 plus. And from the chart where you look at swing point highs and lows, we go out to our 1618. And where's my 1618? Back over here on a weekly. My 1618 of that post halving is that 175 target. Got a lot of lines on here, I know. Pull this down, stretch this out. But there's your 1618 from what? The prior high to the crypto winter low, all-time high, the post halving the last time, which occurred in the end of 2021. And then we got our crypto winter low in like a year later in 2022-ish. So this is why we believe we're going to top out in what? 2025, up here at 160, 170 or higher. And then we're going to do what? Pull back down about 40,000, kind of the plan based on that. Pull back post halving into the next halving in 2028. And we're looking for that to happen sometime in 2026, maybe early 27. But when Bitcoin, if we say reach 160, 170, Mr. Tuso, and Bitcoin's hovering around that 40,000 or lower, that's nibble time. Start buying and getting your position set for the next bull run that occurs in 2028. And then we'll look to take profits sometime in mid to late 2029. Do it in 25, do it in 29. Got it? We dip in 21, 22, we dip in over here 22, then we dip down in here probably 26 where we start buying. Amen? And all that is rinse and repeat from every Bitcoin halving. I've shown you that. Back in roughly 14, 15 bottom, then it was bottom over here in 19, then bottom over in 22, onward every 4-year bottom, and then we get the tops over here in 17, 21, 25. Get it? Pretty accurate. And every time we get the high to low, we at least get a 1618. This time we did a 272. The next time we did a 1618. This time we're going to do a 1618, my humble opinion, which puts us about that 175. So that's your target, 160 to 170. Maybe we go to 175, but when I get to 160, 170, I'm going to be taking profits on all of this stuff. Maybe leave a little something, something going, but we shall see. All right, let's continue. So let me finish up with black gold Texas tea. Any questions on what we covered? That we believe that this push is going to end and we're going to get a big reversal. And if this is part of the big A, little a, combination B coming down, then we go up in C. So we got a little A, a little B, up in C for the big A, big B. Then we come down later, but this is the big rally coming. And I got it set, ready to go, as this is likely going to push down to 65, 63 area, and then reverse and go up toward 90, 90 plus up here near this high. Then that ends that, and then we come back down. A, B, C, with this big red arrow. Any questions? But be ready to go long as we're set with this on a weekly, right there. Buy the PAI hook from oversold territory. This baby will automatically trigger. It's been set and ready to trade mode for weeks now, and I'm waiting for it to finish to then reverse, pop, and we're going up. The plan is to go up near that 94 top over here. A, A, B, C, B, then down. All right. Gold. Be careful with gold. We may need more of a pullback. Let me stretch that out, bring that over here. Kind of running back into that resistance zone and getting rejected. That's that from the high to the low, that 618786 resistance zone. So this could set up. What happens when we get this type of move and we reject into that 618786 zone? Likely going to get another push. And where are we likely to go? Probably down a little further toward that 2600 level, which is my magic Fibbo. Not a guarantee yet, but it's looking like it needs more corrective action. Any questions? And again, this is sloping upwards. So we're in the 2630, 2670 range, 2671, 2639. That's where this is sitting right now. But even as we start stair stepping lower, if that correction is coming, this will be sloping upwards. So maybe we intersect around 2700, 2710, who knows? But likely getting a nice little retracement. Kind of fits the tone from the low to the high. Get a little 618 retracement to the downside, then bounce to go higher. And if we get a flush down to the magic Fibbo, then silver is going to take a dip further, which we almost made it. That's it. Almost made the magic Fibbo here. We didn't quite reach it. But if gold flushes, I'm expecting not only silver to flush here, but to flush down in this area. So I'm still waiting, Emil. 25 or lower on SLV is salivate country. To buy that for the next big run. Are we going to get there? I can't imagine silver not getting down here if gold makes its run toward the magic Fibbo line, which is a few hundred more bucks, a couple hundred more bucks down. Ideal. So go ahead and flush it. Let's get down here, get SLV down around that 25 or lower, salivate country to buy the dip. Any questions? Because I promised we'd reach 3,000. We went very close, and it's going to be above 3,000, but you can see the high 2956. Looks like the high 2956. Yep, 2956. Not too shabby, but that's still not 3,000. And since we at this extremes, look at this prior move. From that high to this low, right to the 1618. That's it. We got things in the way, but let me compress this over. But we went right to that 1618. Test, test, test. What happens after you do this process? You get to these outer extensions. A lot of times you want to come back toward the magic Fibbo. So what would that mean for me? We get silver at 25 or lower on SLV, salivate. We get gold to come down here, another couple $100 to drop down, start seeking out the magic Fibbo, and then we look to go long on gold on that dip, and we look to go long on silver on that dip. And the reason I'm so excited about SLV, especially if it gets down in this area, is that's a triple coming back at us. Why a triple? Because from the all-time high to the recent low back in 2020, we're supposed to go to 60 and 72 range. We're below 30, so that's your double. And we get down here to this 25 or lower, basically there's your triple zone. Double, triple, just screaming at us. So how do we do it? We go to Costco and buy silver bars. Hold them. Or we buy some SLV, buy and hold. I've said it numerous times. When you do that, there is a small fee you have to pay. And you see right there, expense ratio about 0.5%. So it does cost you a little bit. But from this prior high to low, we already closed above that 27. Long time ago. I had a monthly candle, a weekly candle, daily candle, all of them. So that says we have a 75% chance we're going to 60, 70 plus we're going to 70, and I like it. And silver's going to just go ripping higher. And what do I mean by silver's underperforming? From its all-time high, we never reached it. Gold in this same scenario, gold went on from its prior all-time high, went on to make numerous all-time highs over and over and over, just like ES and NASDAQ and those. And silver did not do it, right? Did not do it. So that's screaming underperforming. There you go. Totally underperforming. Just to get up here is quite the run. Almost a double just to get up here to visit the all-time high. And with this ratio, this is a high probability target. Is it going to get there at the end of this year, next year? I don't know. Maybe. But I do know it's going to get up there, in my humble opinion. So this is something why you can buy and hold silver because it will appreciate in the weeks, months, and years to come. Any questions on that? All right. We talked about Coinbase, that I think that trade is setting up. Bitcoin pullback, Coinbase pullback. We've come down. A lot of these are setting up here on the weekly chart, coming down toward the magic Fibbo, setting up for Bitcoin to do its reversal and Coinbase to do its reversal. My targets are up here in the upper 4s to 500 range. So you can see where that comes from this prior low to that high to this higher low area. Let me see if I can get this actual current low at the moment. That current low is 193.09. All right, let me see, 193, get that off. Move this guy out of the way for a second. But that low is 193.09. So Emil, is this the end? Maybe. Maybe Bitcoin's ready, or we get one more little flush. But I still think based on this, what if it goes a little bit lower? We follow it down, and then we shoot for 410, 435. From what? 180? We get down there? Kind of changes a little bit. But what happens when Coinbase rips into the 4s to 5 range up here? What is CONL going to do? Rip. Go ripping. So we're at 20 bucks and lower right now. I think that's a steal. Same type of thing. From that high to this low, that puts our targets around 80, 90, maybe 100. And we're at 20 bucks. I like it. So is this a good time to buy a few CONLs? You betcha. Could it go lower? Yeah. Bitcoin flushes down like we talked about, going a little bit further, then by all means, this will push Coinbase down and that'll push this down. And the lower we go, but this is certainly some nibble time right around that 20 bucks. You betcha. Low so far, 1911. Maybe that's it, and we go ripping. But that's the plan. Any questions on that? If you so choose to take this mission, this tape will self-destruct. But if you take the mission, I think you got big rewards coming. And when Bitcoin goes ripping to 160, 170, Coinbase is going to go ripping to that 400 to 500. That means CONL is likely to go up here into the 80, maybe 100 range. I like it. Any questions on that? All right. Look at the dollar going lower. Is it going to break down? Remember that 103 area kind of sets the tone to call that top and reversal. But that's why I kept saying, Emil, we need to sell up here and then we need to buy the euro and the pound because they're going to go higher like clockwork. And we're testing a critical level, prior support zone. We're testing it right now. That gives, not only do we break the daily magic fibbo where this is sitting on, but opens the door to the weekly that's over here, which is down around that magical 103 level. So basically, what does that mean? We close below the daily magic fibbo, we're going to come down and test the weekly. Again, that's kind of sloping upwards. But we start closing below that magic fibbo on the weekly, the door is ajar. We're going down to 98, 97. Onward and downward we go. And what does that mean for the euro and the pound? Onward, upward we go. Upwards, higher and higher. Played out beautifully. Let me throw a few more things in here that are potentially setting up, and two are in the Magnificent Seven. Apple, Mr. Apple. Market's been selling off. Apple's kind of holding in there on this latest few, right? Kind of holding in there. But you can see from the latest move, we reached these extensions. We were due for a pullback. Now we're setting up a brand new one. So I'll go over here to the daily, show you what's cooking. So from this swing point high to this swing point low, we're hovering right in here. We already got the close the other day, candle body above. So the door is ajar to go up here to 260, 271, 266, 271, Emil. We came down and touched the magic fibbo. Love it. So as the market's ready to go reversing, well, there's a very high probability that Apple is going to go up here and maybe push the boundaries up toward that 285. So here's our target zone from the 1618 to the 1448. There's your target zone. Apple's going up here, especially as the markets start reversing and ES gets the bounce and NASDAQ gets the bounce. This baby's going to go ripping up here. But it's set up perfectly. Closed above the 618, came down and retested the magic fibbo. Game on. Apple's going higher. Right? Well, what if we get a deeper sell-off? Well, maybe we come down and retest it. So I still think we're going up here. No question. The other one is Amazon. Amazon hadn't set the tone like Apple has on the bounce yet, but it's got a beautiful setup coming when the markets rally, the Magnificent Seven and NASDAQ rallies, they're going to rally. So that puts Amazon up around that 250, up as high as 270, and we're right at about 200. Not too shabby. So we hadn't even crossed this upper quadrant. Really love to see it cross that 227 area. It's a little battle zone right there. Former resistance, support, resistance. So right around that 227-ish level. That opens the door up here to 250, 270. So where do I think Amazon's going? Amazon's going to go up to this target zone up here. Is this the bottom? Maybe, maybe not. But if I'm buying shares and I buy a few here and look for them to go up there, or options, I want to give it several months out, not just a couple of days or weeks, give it several months. But I do think based on this right here, we get that big push over the next couple of months. So I want to give it a few months out. And if you want to take in the big run, like to midsummer, then go out that far and shoot for where price is going to go, about a 20 plus 25% gain from 200 up to 250, 270, maybe 300. Not too shabby. Any questions? So these are setting up. What I like about it is all these markets did what we wanted them to do. They came back toward the magic fibbo. And now we got to do, if you want to be more conservative, let it then cross that 227-ish level, kind of like a little swing point right there. Then we go along at that point. Or buy earlier, and you might go a little bit lower, but I still think it's going up here. So when ES hits its 62, 6250 or higher, NASDAQ hits its 22.6, 22.8 or higher, this baby's going to be up in here. So Apple and Amazon are likely to go way up there. Any question? Any stock symbols y'all want to look at today? If not, we'll circle the wagons. So if I don't see any stock symbol requests, then Mr. Tucson, we come back just to remind everyone, we're looking at buying the weekly PAI hook from oversold territory on the black gold Texas T. Set, ready to go. We're looking at setups on NASDAQ over, let me go to this one, over here on NASDAQ, Russell, got the Russell set, ready to go. We got Tech, ready to go. We got S&P, ready to go. And we're ready to trade. That means it's locked and loaded, ready to go. And when that baby hooks, we're going to trigger higher and boom, look for a run. And if you joined us late, that run could include, here's the NASDAQ, that's Nikkei. Let me come over here, NASDAQ. Let's start with ES. But we're reaching the target zone. We said we'd likely come here. Look, right to our target zone. Could we go lower? Yeah. The lower we go, the more I salivate because we still got to get up here to 62, 62.50 minimum. But I'm waiting for that daily to turn and look for a retracement. So from the current high to low, we're looking at a multi-point run just to make a lower high, lower low. Kind of like the beauty of it. So from that high to that low, we'd look for at least a 618 type of retracement, somewhere around 59-ish. So that's a couple of hundred points easy on a bounce, even if it turns out it's a lower high, lower low. Otherwise, this may be the end when it reverses and we go up here to 62, 62.50. Now we're talking about 500 points. I like it. Either way, I'm looking to buy. Amen? Any questions? So I'll definitely get to a position of authority, Emil, because again, I'll run this a fresh one. But from this current swing point high to swing point low, that's right around that 6,000-ish range. So it's a couple of hundred points up. That would probably, even if this reversal comes in and we only do a, sweet spot retracement and we go lower to go visit that 3-day moving average, the magic fibbo, that's fine. That's still a couple of hundred points. And remember, people in ES die and go to heaven with a point or two. Well, there's your couple of hundred points. Much bigger goal than a point or two. So I'm waiting for the reversal. NASDAQ, and if we do go breaking above that 6,000-ish, 61 area, then we got our 62, 62.50, 63. So what if this bounce grows some legs, we're in a position of authority, and it goes busting out, then by all means, we're going to go up there. Bottom line is, in my humble opinion, we're going to reach 62, 62.50 no matter what. Even with this, we're still going to get up there, or we reverse now to get up there, we're going. Got it? NASDAQ, one more time. Same type of thing from the high to the low. Would at least get a 1,000 point run from say 20,000, about 21 and change. So even if it turns out it's just a retracement to a lower high, lower low, fine. Still make some good money on that bounce. Any questions? And last but not least, Salivate Country down here. We asked it to come down at 205 or lower. There we are. And could we go lower? Maybe. But this is certainly nibbles time because we're overdue for a reversal on this one too. And we got a weekly that's pushing, which might be our three-wave correction. And we're getting a weekly to start reversing here in the coming weeks. That's why I think we're going to get a run. Even if we just run back to the magic Fibbo, you're talking about a 15, 20 point run. I like it. Black gold. Still think we need a swing point low before it's done. It's awfully close. So I'm not quite convinced this little reversal is here at the end, but I'm looking for that last little flush down into this zone. Let me do my arrow. Get that last little stair step flush down into this zone to do that A, B, C correction to go up in the big B to then reverse later, but that's here nor there. That's going to be much later. But yep, looking to buy this dip, Dan. As my weekly gets oversold, I'm looking for the weekly reversal that's set up for this thing to go pushing up to around 90 to 95. Amen? All right. And again, looking at the software, it's a thing of beauty. Weekly's oversold, oversold territory. All we want to do is buy that hook. So I don't think this is the bottom just yet. I think it's going to go a little bit lower. And then when that baby turns and hooks, it'll automatically trigger higher. It'll trigger higher when it turns. It'll trigger and get us in that trade. There you have it. So with that, as we always like to finish, and again, be careful with Bitcoin because it might flush a little bit more. Maybe this is the end. Maybe we flush down one more time, but do not fret. Don't get upset if it flushes down because I personally want to see a 30% decline from its high to its low to come down in that 75 down to about 68,000 range. Basically, this big box over here, I'll move it. So I want to see this come down about 75 to the prior swing point breakout around 68. And I'll condense this to show you that zone. So anywhere in that 75 to 68 range, 68 is kind of where we broke out from. Test, test, broke out, test, fail, fail, tested again, tested, retested, boom. So this is what I'd love to see. A little more flush than the big reversal. And one thing, I mentioned this before, I forgot to mention when I was talking about ES. Typically on a Friday, we do not get the swing point low, right? Very rare on a Friday's low is it the last low. So that's why whenever I see a swing point low on a Friday, very, very iffy. That was this Friday over here. And it was iffy that we would see it. So we did get a new low on Monday. We got another low on Tuesday. So typically, if you see a swing point low on a Friday, be suspect that we're probably going to push that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, probably going to get some sort of flush down before the reversal. So this is why it's all setting up. We did what we needed to do. We got a new low since Friday's low, and we're setting up for the daily reversal, and we're looking for a nice pop. So with that, I'll say good luck. God bless you. May the pips be with you. I'm humbled and honored to be your mentor and instructor. Join us again tomorrow. That's it, and that's all.